The transition from high school to university is harder than people think, and here's why. Hi, my name is Hayley, and I'm a psychotherapist. A little bit of the background on my story in becoming a therapist. I've always been somebody that's really interested in learning the details about things. So selfishly, I really like learning about my clients and learning from my clients. I really like helping people live more fulfilling lives and learning strategies to manage some of the challenges that life throws at us. A lot of students who come to see me are looking for strategies to help manage challenging social situations. A lot of them are coming to learn some practical skills to help manage things like procrastination, or keeping motivation up throughout the semester, or dealing with burnout. It's quite a few different things that clients may be coming in to address that school kind of brings to them. Low self-esteem in young adults looks like a lot of prioritizing other people's beliefs over their own, jumping into somebody else's lens instead of their own, and being very reliant on external validation. And I think a lot of them lost the skill, or maybe never developed the skill of self-validating. So I think that's a lot of the practical work that I like to do with my clients, is learning how we can self-validate. So a lot of times there's a lot of strength-based approach going on. I see a lot of distorted thinking in a lot of students and a lot of people dealing with self-esteem challenges. A lot of assumption making, almost like mind reading, a lot of paranoia of their thinking. I really like to challenge my clients on what's a fact and what's just a feeling. And sometimes our feelings feel really strong. It's because usually we're trying to protect ourselves from something like rejection, but just because the feeling feels really strong, it doesn't mean that it's true all the time. So we do a lot of work in investigating these beliefs, these assumptions that we make, and thinking about something that's maybe more balanced. There's almost that belief that because this happened before, this is my reality going forward. And so I also like to take a little bit of a trauma-focused approach there and really get to the root of why we have this distorted thinking going on. Usually it doesn't come from nowhere. We don't just develop these beliefs. It comes from somewhere. And I think when we're able to really address where that came from, we can separate ourselves and realize that's not necessarily our future. With social media being what it is today, a lot of the clients that I see, they have learned to get that validation online. And I know we all say it that social media is not real life, but I think it's really hard to implement that into the way that we think. And I think it's really hard for people to separate that. I know social media is like a big part of a lot of people's lives. Sometimes it is worth setting like some healthy boundaries there. But I like to take the approach of like, how do we address the way the world is now? And I think with a lot of my clients, I really try to help them learn how to self-validate. Distress tolerance is something that I teach with almost every client, because I think most people, probably all people, could be better at tolerating distress. We're very used to distracting ourselves these days, especially with phones and social media. So distress tolerance is super, super important. What distress tolerance is, it's not getting rid of an emotion, but it's learning how to have an emotion be there and still be able to go grab coffee with a friend or go to a workout class or go to work and feel okay, and not feel like we're stuck in emotion or trapped in an emotion and it's robbing us from living our life. So distress tolerance is really about learning how to live with anxiety, or live with depression, or live with anger. And sometimes distress tolerance is a little bit of a challenge with clients because they don't want to feel angry anymore. They don't want to feel anxious anymore. They don't want to feel depressed anymore. And sometimes I tell them that what success looks like with distress tolerance is not digging yourself deeper into that hole. It means making better decisions when we're anxious or when we're angry or when we're depressed. So sometimes the success with distress tolerance, I always say, it's not in what happened, but it's in what didn't happen, and the positive choices you make, and not indulging in a bad behavior because you're anxious, stressed, or depressed. ADHD is something that I see with a lot of the clients that I work with today. I really put a focus on destigmatizing when I'm working with clients and helping them realize that ADHD doesn't make them less than, but it's something that oftentimes makes the traditional school system harder for them. I try to make them understand that it's just that their brain works differently. It's not that their brain works worse, a non-ADHD brain. I really try to help them acknowledge some of the positives that are there, because I think, unfortunately, especially when it's teenagers and young adults that are coming to me, the ADHD feels like a lot of people come in feeling like their emotions aren't valid. And I think that this is due to people not speaking about their emotions as much. I also think this has a little bit to do with social media as well, and just the illusion that people portray online. I think with social media now, it makes having a big emotion feel so isolating. Feels like nobody else is going through that. So validating is super important as a therapist, and just making sure that the client feels that their emotions are absolutely valid. And I also like to remind clients that it is normal to feel like those peaks and valleys in life when people are dealing with really big emotions and that they're scared of them, or their relationship with their emotions is maybe negative. I really do see it as a cue that we need to teach some distress tolerance skills. For me, growing up, going through different life changes, a lot of times I was always very afraid of my emotions and overwhelmed by my emotions. And I learned to cope by over functioning and sometimes avoiding. And something that has really helped me and made me feel more in control, more calm, and more steady, not to say that I don't still experience adversity, is learning to just sit with my emotions and learning that I can tolerate distress and really finding that confidence. And now when I feel a certain way, my response to it is with acceptance and more clarity in what is the next steps to move forward. And I think now I'm able to look at my emotions as information rather than something to run away from. Growing up, I grew up as a child of divorce. My parents divorced when I was around 5 or 6 years old. And I come from dual culture. So on my dad's side, he comes from that Caribbean culture. So his parenting style was so different from my mom's. Something that I really struggled with my parents' divorce was a lot of separation anxiety with my mom, and a lot of challenging dynamics of going from one house to the next house, and the rules being different and the feelings being different in the home, and learning how to adapt to both different environments. When we are dealing with our parents going through divorce or just having challenges within their relationship that we can see, sometimes we can blame ourselves. Sometimes we can also feel like we don't have anyone to talk to about these things, because maybe it doesn't feel comfortable going to one of your parents since they're the ones that are going through it. Also, unfortunately, kids and teens end up being the shoulder to cry on for one of their parents, or maybe they're put in that therapist seat a little bit. I have found it incredibly rewarding being able to help clients who are going through situations like that, because I feel that therapy provides a really good space for teens or kids that are going through something like that, because therapy just provides that space where they don't have to feel like a burden to their parents. For a lot of parents, they're very hesitant to allow their kid to pursue therapy. In their world, it's something that's very new. It's something that they didn't have, or maybe they feel that they didn't. I think that in therapy, there's so many things that can happen for a teenager or a child that are positive. The biggest thing that I see happening with teenagers in therapy is they're able to articulate their emotions a lot better. I notice a first session with a teenager versus when I'm 10, 20 sessions in, just their ability to articulate and understand how they're feeling is a lot better. And I don't think that they have the opportunity to really explore that and learn how to do that outside of therapy. If your parents are fighting or going through a divorce, this is my message to you. It can be a very isolating experience, but it doesn't need to be. Therapy can provide a space where you can explore those emotions and feel really validated. So the shame or the guilt doesn't have to feel as heavy, and you don't have to feel so alone.